Welcome to Super Media Runners, where we run the media to you. As we get closer to the new year and ponder all of the past regretful decisions we have made, the dying star we call the sun will inevitably explode, killing all life as we know it. Everything that matters now will no longer matter or exist.
Super Media Runners!
Let's rank all 10 episodes of Rick and Morty Season 7 in a tier list. Starting with Episode 1, How Poopy Got His Poop Back, Mr. Poopy Butthole was never an essential Rick and Morty side character that we needed to dedicate an entire episode to. I could tell you 3 funny gags in this entire episode, all of them being superior to the entire plot. The FU restaurant, Predator PI, and the ghost robot. But then we get things like character repeats the same word because it's not another character's inner thoughts, or the classic over-explaining something as it annoys another character that drags the whole ending. Oh, and the worst use of a celebrity guest. Really, what a waste. The worst part about this episode is that it's still somewhat funny, but there was no hook. This was a rom-com subplot with sci-fi elements, and somehow it underutilizes returning characters like Squanchy and Bird Person, making them less interesting. Not Rick and Morty. I don't want to be hard on this episode, but geez, this has to be the worst Rick and Morty episode premiere so far. It's F tier. Episode 2, The Jerry-Rick Trap. Oh, so close to getting my name spelled correctly. But yeah, this episode deserves to be among the best Rick and Jerry episodes that do what the show knows best. Turn a sci-fi concept upside down while also using the concept to highlight character relationships in a funny and interesting way, while also creating alpha brain philosophy in Reddit posts in the future. My only hang-up is that the strong A-plot really gives nothing else for the family to do but be fodder to an undercooked villain that is a few gags and personality quirks away from being kinda memorable, and for that, it's in the B tier. Episode 3, Air Force Wong, shows proper character growth for Rick that doesn't feel forced, watching you, Rick Marai Jack, while also bringing back a beloved character that we haven't seen since Season 2 in 2015. God, I feel old. Not to mention that this is a President Curtis and Rick-centric character episode that introduces and escalates hive mind warfare, which is so interesting. But overall, the conclusion lacked that emotional gut punch that autoerotic assimilation has because of all the Curtis and Wong stuff getting in the way of it. It's going on the B tier, baby. Episode 4, That's Amorte, feels like it shouldn't be that funny, especially when you're using unaliving yourself as a sci-fi element. A very satirical episode that doesn't feel preachy about the idea of what we choose to ignore, mostly at the dinner table. You'll laugh and have an existential crisis. It really gives me serious moral conflict vibes from that TV show The Good Place. This is S tier Rick and Morty. Episode 5, Unmort Rickin', should be the blueprint on how to keep characters that are super mysterious and badass relevant without having them lose those aspects that make them interesting in the first place. This episode was also able to reveal more about evil Morty and create a more interesting relationship with our versions of Rick and Morty, while also keeping the mystique of Rick Prime. Best fan service that still has a strong story to boot, you are going to S. Episode 6, Rick Fending Your Mort, is now the silliest clip show of Rick and Morty, and that's a good thing. A great blend and use of meta-humor that truly has some great bits, while also surprisingly using a fun and interesting narrative surrounding the whole clip show. Sadly, it's still not as good as Interdimensional Cable 1 and 2, but it's definitely better than Morty's Mind Blowers. B-tier stuff. Episode 7, Wet Quat A Mortican Summer, has a great cold open that ends up being better than the rest of the episode. I don't know how that's possible. Well, actually I can, because the hooker concept of this episode is a gimmick, and not just a gimmick, a sci-fi reference. That's the episode. It just feels like Quado and Taken were not a good combo, even with the few chuckles I got. It sadly feels like a hollow Rick and Summer episode that could have explored itself a bit better. It's the shittier version of Rick Mancing the Stone, but that might just be my Mad Max bias talking. You are D tier. Episode 8, Rise of the Numericons, the movie, is such a great idea that blends everything that we love about Transformers, Star Wars, and Avatar. Rick and Morty are at their best when they use the best elements from these films and naturally weave a cohesive and entertaining story. This post-credit scene turned entire episode should prove that the Rick and Morty formula can work just as well in an episode that basically has Rick nowhere and Morty reduced to an audience member in for the ride. Can't wait for the sequel, S tier. Episode 9, Mort Ragnarok, is a solid Rick and Morty episode. There's not much to complain about it, but I feel like the concept of exploring the spiritual world in a scientific way was cool, only for it to take a backseat as a gag. It does that thing where it predictably makes the B-plot be an integral part of the conflict by the midpoint, and it's fine, but Lawnmower Dog did that better. B tier. Episode 10, Fear No Mort, feels like a more introspective version of M. Night Shyamalan's that ends the season in a bittersweet tone that feels reminiscent of early Simpsons, with genuine emotion and understanding of Rick and Morty's character dynamic and how that might be shaken up in later seasons. Once again, way to be the best kind of fan service, but also emotionally driven story that Rick and Morty hasn't really landed well since Closer Encounters of the Rick Kind. S tier for me, baby. In my opinion, Rick and Morty Season 7 has had the most high points compared to the last 4 seasons of Rick and Morty, and that's really saying a lot. I think this has been the best for Rick's character, as we really start to see him becoming less of a nihilist edgelord and more of a misunderstood jerk. Even if the show's popularity has seen better days, I think the transition in writing is finally picking up steam, and I'm actually looking forward to the next few seasons rather than begrudgingly watching it, because at this point, I'll be in my 40s before the remaining 50-plus episodes release. Let us know your thoughts of this season in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to get more Super Media Runners. Have a happy new year.